Well, today we're going to put a new ESC in my truck. Got this Oxide ESC that I intend to put on this thing. But first, I need to punch some new holes in this carbon fiber plate to get the ESC to sit right in the truck. Let's kind of see what to do here. Got a little twist drill, nothing exciting. I don't want to put it too close to the edge, I guess. Let me just in a little bit. And then I'll just make a mark for now. All right, let me go drill these out real quick. It's weird to drill carbon fiber. I'm always afraid of this stuff. People say you're not supposed to breathe it and things like that. It's like, gets into your lungs. It's like a permanent thing. And it scars up your lungs and whatnot, is my understanding. So it always frightens me to mess with this stuff too much. In this case, I'm just doing a little twist drill, so it's all manual, and I can do it right over my trash can, and there's not stuff flying everywhere. Which doesn't seem ideal. All right, that's one hole done. Let me do this other one, and I'll be right back to the bench. And I'll put a little bit of dab of glue on each of these holes to make sure that no liquid or any kind of moisture gets into the carbon fiber plate. It will get into the carbon and expand and just tear apart your carbon fiber. It's almost like worthless to have it in that case. Almost done. I'll be right back. All right. So yeah, carbon fiber can be dangerous. Not a toy. So yeah, so I like to just put a little bit of dab of glue in the edge of the hole, and just to make sure no moisture gets in there. I've actually done this to the other holes here as well, and to the edge of the plate. Meaning, like around this outside edge of the plate. I just kind of ran some CA glue around it just to make sure that nothing gets into the plate. All right. Let's see how I get this to fit. I put it this way, yeah? Yeah. By the way, these Oxide ESCs do not come with a fan, but they have this great cooling fin on the bottom. It's actually very efficient at cooling. However, I'm in Texas and it gets hot here, and I need a fan on this speed controller. it will overheat. The temperature for shutdown is like 256 degrees by default, or 254 degrees by default. I can't remember which. Either way, it's, in Fahrenheit, that's quite warm. They say that it'll take up to 170 or 180 degrees Celsius before having any kind of failures. I would not test that, but that sounds pretty solid to me. I have my soldering iron here. Let's get some solder. In the box, they give you some wires. I'll put those on, and I'll take the leads off of this guy once we get it off. Okay. We really only need 3, don't we? So, if you've been with me before and seen soldering done, you'll know that I like to use a really hot iron. This I set this to 830 degrees, and I like to get a lot of heat into these terminals on the ESC and make sure that the solder flows there. So I'll tin each of these terminals now, and then I'll come back and add the wires. But I like to get these cups like pretty hot, and then as you add solder, that liquid solder will help transmit that heat, and you'll start to see it flow around the inside of the terminal cup there. You only need about maybe a ½ inch worth of solder to get it in there and get it flowing. And that'll make a good connection for your wires. So yeah, about a ½ inch of solder. Did I get enough there? Yeah. Nope, not enough. There we go. Now, next one. All right, and we'll run our A, B, and C wires in. Like I said, I'll take the battery connections off of this one and move it over to this one as we go. This will be wire A. Usually the solder on these wires takes a lot of temperature to melt, the ones that are pre-tinned. Sometimes I will actually cut the pre-tinned section of wire off and, ignore the factory solder. We'll see how this does. It looks like, yeah, it's pretty hot. It needs a lot of heat. So what I'll do instead is add a little of my lower melt solder to kind of soften this up a little bit. And it makes a difference. It really does. It's basically, it kind of cuts the high temp melt solder with the lower melt solder and makes life a little bit easier. There we go. Nice, neat solder. That's not going anywhere. All right. So I'll do the same thing here. I'll tin these ends with my softer solder, or I'll add a little bit of my softer solder to these ends. Then solder it on. Should probably do both ends, but I'll probably cut the other side to go to the motor. We won't need all this wire. Man, that wire gets hot. Yeah, that's in there good. It's not going anywhere. And last, just use that to hold that up. There you go. And C wire. Yep. Nice. All right. Let me grab my shrink tubing. And we'll cut a couple chunks off of this. We'll do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'll grab my heat gun and we can shrink these down. The shrink tubing is nice. I use it a lot. You saw I bought a spool of it. It's great because it's got some glue on the inside of the tubing that holds it in place once it shrinks into place. Let me grab my heat gun. I have too much stuff laying around here. And I'm in the middle of 2 different builds, right? I got this Kyosho MP11 going right now, and I'm in the middle of this SCT48 build. So the shop's a mess. I cannot find anything. And once I get done with these builds, I'll go back and clean this joint up, make it look a little bit more presentable, and I'll be able to find my stuff again. Which, you know, would be nice. It's nice to find your stuff, right? Where did I put my heat gun? My kid usually takes it over to his table and heats his nitro up with it. Let me look over here. Is it just on my desk and I'm not seeing it? Like, what the heck? What did I do with my heat gun? I'm lost. I don't know where my heat gun went at all. Did someone take it? Walk off with it, maybe? I don't even see a lighter anywhere. It's terrible. Ooh, what's this? No, that's the wrong cable. Well, that's not good. I can't even find, like, my lighter. I have a lighter somewhere. Someplace. Can't even find that. Here we go. Let's use that. All right. And you can see the glue kind of squeeze out there. It's nice. It's still hot, so the glue's still melty, doing its work. Cool. All right. Let's see if we can get the old speed controller leads off. It's a little bit of wet solder. Wet solder with a little bit of flux. Ooh, my soldering iron turned itself off. Uh-oh. There we go. Just came unplugged a little bit. No big deal. We do have to wait for it to heat back up, though. Sadly. All right. Come on, heat. There we are. Yes, I was going to take this. I just sort of lost where I was. A little bit of wet solder makes this go faster. Flux doesn't hurt. Clean up all that funk that's on the terminal from all my driving. Come on. There we go. Some truggy tires under my chair. That won't work. All right, let's put shrink wrap over here so I don't forget. Because I will forget. We have some snippers over here. I'll just cut off these ends. Wow, these are dull. Ooh. Yeah, we'll strip wire with an X-Acto blade. Sacrilege. Sacrilege. All right. Let's tin these. Tin these ends. We've now... Oh, come on. Stay upright, please. Thank you. I should get one of those, like, helping hands rigs, maybe. Come on, heat. There we go. I like to get a little bit of solder in the wire, too, like, up into the wire. It'll kind of wick in there if you put enough heat. This keeps the connection a little pretty sturdy. That's probably too much solder. It looks like it's hanging off. Just wipe it off. All right. And then let's in this guy. Ooh, that's a mess. All right. That looks good. A lot of solder. All right. Now we can put these guys on. Let's see if I can get some more solder in that joint. All right. Come on, wire. Work with me. Like that. Nice. That's not going anywhere. Nice and tight. And we'll get this negative lead on and we'll be done with the soldering. Okay. All right, those look good, feel good. All right, shrink tubing. I don't know if this is strictly necessary. I just prefer it. It looks a little bit better. Looks nice and clean. Yeah. Again, I don't think it's strictly necessary, but right. All right, I don't think we're gonna need to solder any longer. Should be good there. We do need to get this ESC out. Let me go ahead and take these motor wires off. Come on, solder iron. Get to work. Yeah, a little wet solder makes things easier. I don't know why, it just conducts heat better. All right. Okay, last one. And I guess I'll have to free the sensor wire from this bundle too, huh? Okay. Right. that sensor wire goes in the back. I'll have to wait till I pull this thing out, I guess. All right, turn off my iron, and I'll open up this receiver box because we're going to have to unplug and plug some things there. They always say 1 to turn, 2 to burn. So the steering servo should be in your first channel, 1 to turn, and your ESC should be in your second channel. Like I said, 2 to burn. And, ooh, sorry I got my hat in there, guys. Just take that off. We're going to have to do some other things here too. Like I said, I'm going to have a fan on this speed controller because it's too high here. And that's just not going to fly. So I'll have to go and get a fan before I can give it a run for sure. What did I do with my X-Acto blade? See if I can get this speed controller off of the plate without taking the plate out of the car. Oh yeah, it looks like it's coming out. I shugu my controllers down, so it's kind of like cleaning up the shugu mess. I don't like a controller coming off of the deck in a race. It does make it a little bit challenging to get the controller off, though. Where did my screwdriver go? Just use my screwdriver to pry all this stuff out. Like that. Still hanging on. Come on. Who pulls an ESC out by the wires? All right. All right, that's that speed controller out. This is a good speed controller. It's a Hobbywing XR8 Pro G3. Nothing wrong with this one. I just I put the Oxide in my buggy. I just really want to try it in the truck. It's so smooth in the buggy, and my truck is already smooth with this 2250 can in it. So I'm just thinking maybe it'll be even smoother. I don't want this thing even fit. Will it? I might have screwed up here, guys. I might have to move it back that way. Okay. See if I can get this shugu off of the deck. Maybe something to grip it with would be better. Man, this is really on there. Man, that stuff is sturdy. Let's go, Shugu. All right, how do we put this thing in? It won't go this way, and I don't want to put it in this way because then I won't be able to get to the display and the buttons. And I don't want to turn everything around. I'm trying to like slide the carbon fiber plate under the can. It's just a little bit too big. Maybe I need to put the carbon fiber plate in sideways and the ESC across the plate this way. Let's try that. And, you know, per usual, I'm going to shugu this CF plate to the deck. They say, and I haven't tried it yet, they say that you can mount this ESC directly to the chassis plate. So drill holes in your chassis plate, and you can run screws through it. So you mount this heat sink directly to the chassis plate, and the chassis plate kind of becomes your a larger heat sink, right? Maybe that's the ticket. I need some screws though, because I don't have. So these are wonky screws. These are M2.5, and it would be nice if I had a countersunk one to put in the bottom of the car. Do you think? No, I don't think these would work. I think I'd need to get. What can I do here? I have a template I could drill the chassis. I have countersink bits. I could do that. Not a big deal. I do need some screws. I thought I actually had those. I've got a bunch of M2.5 screws, but none are countersunk, and they are button heads. I'm kind of thinking maybe just send it. Just send it with button heads. I can countersink them into the chassis plate a little bit. Ah, man, let's do it. Yo, low. Let me get a new X-Acto blade, and I'll cut this ESC tray off. And then I'll have to come back, and I have to figure out where to put a fan too. All right, let's see what we can do here. I'm just going to cut this tray. Which seems wrong. If it is, I'll just go pick up another one in the shop here at Thornhill. And we'll be no worse for the wear, and I'll have a new ESC tray. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Oh, that's close. Looks like I'm all the way through most of the way. Yeah. Now watch how I do this. I'm cutting my servo wire probably. Let's try that. Still. Where's it? Need to be cut still. Okay. On this last little edge. I cut it. Yeah. And this way. That still needs to be cut too. Please. Man. It's like so close. Let me see if I can get my cutter in there and snip it. Jeez, that was a lot of work. All right. Now we take these screws out of the back of the ESC tray. And then we can just take that whole tray out. We should have access to the deck. Yeah. Now, will this thing fit on the deck? Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I can put it right up against the chassis brace. That'll leave me plenty of room for a fan. I could even put it in the middle of this indent. Wow. Let's do it. This is crazy. Do you know, I have something else I wanted to do too with this. And I did this on the ET48. We're going to try it on this one too, and that is to use CPU thermal paste. Just picked this up at Best Buy. What I'm thinking is I'll mark the deck. I have some transfer punches here. I can punch some spots, and we can drill some holes, make it work. Let me take a peek back at chat. Looks like there was a question about what car this is. This is actually an ET48 2.2 Techno kit. I have most of my kits are Technos, except for right now I'm in the middle of a Kyosho MP11 build, which you can kind of see over here. All right, let's see what we can do. Because we are going to have to punch these holes and then drill them out. Let me get my little template that I made. And let's see which way these screws go. So we want it to sit this way. The holes are down. Maybe I should write a little note to self here so that I don't get mixed up in the future with this template. And like I said, I can't find anything, so a marker is out of the question, isn't it? Jeez. Or a pen. Marker and a pen. How about that? So we said the holes are kind of underneath the display, so we want to put our arrow this way, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I have some little transfer punches. It's just a hardened steel. Bit there. Let me get this over closer to the servo, I guess. I'll kind of put it in the middle. I keep forgetting to bring my hammer over to the shop. So this is what we use as a hammer. It's just a block of paver. So that gets us spot 1. And this will be spot 2. Right. Good. Good. Let me line this up kind of over this gap. Let me find my drill. Do I have a drill here? Yes. Does it already have the right size bit in it? No. Maybe? That'll work. All right. Wish us luck. All right. And the next. Did we lose the tooth on that? There we go. Okay, let me get my countersink bit. I guess this one will do. Yeah, might as well. All right, let's go with the wider one. All right. Yeah, that'll work. I guess the question is, will these screws that are not flat? Yeah, I mean I'm going to use these for now. I'll add countersunk ones later. They are going to stand proud, but I think that might be okay for now. And then I'll see if I can get some countersunk screws to replace them. Okay. So, like I said, I want to try putting this right on the deck, and I'll come back and put a fan in here somewhere. In fact, I'll go ahead and cut out this side pod for that. This side pod is made out of TPU. It's 3D printed, designed by my buddy Scott. He did have things for sale on a website, but doesn't really have that up any longer, I don't think. So if he gets that back up, I'll try to put a link somewhere, and you guys can go out and see where you can get your own TPU side pods. These things are great. They're flexy, right? You can trim them, cut them, and all that good stuff too. Let's see, how do we do this without cutting a wire? Okay. And yeah, I'll put a fan in here somewhere. And I'll have to get a splitter out here too, probably. Do I have one? I actually have one. I do. I'll have to use that somewhere in here. This mess. Can I use this iBus channel for power? Is that a thing on these FlySky receivers? Anybody know? I guess I just split off of this one, because I have this fan mounted here. This is also SRC design fan mount I use because I use a small pinion and my motor sits too close to the chassis brace to have a fan that's mounted on the top with zip ties lashed over, because there's not enough room for the zip ties. Unless I carve out the chassis brace. No, I don't want to do that. All right, fan goes channel 3. So I'll just take channel 3 out and put the splitter in, and that'll come into this here for now, and then I'll add the fan to the other side. Okay. All right. Now the tricky part, I guess. What we have to do is put some CPU thermal paste on. It's basically each of these terminals is going to sit on the, or each of these chunks on the cooling block are going to sit right on the chassis plate. So I'm thinking we'll just put a bit on everyone except for maybe the ones with the screws, unless we can get it on there nice and clean. Let's see what we can do. This seems very strange to do to an RC car, doesn't it? Put CPU thermal paste. I'm just going to dab it on here. I'll let the screws do the work of spreading it around when I put it down. Stay. Thank you. I would have thought this stuff would have been a lot stickier. It doesn't like to stick to stuff. Or maybe it just doesn't like to stick to this aluminum oxide. That would not be surprising, actually. Okay. How do we do this? Ooh, you can feel the squish on the CPU paste. Let's see, I need a 1.5. Drop my screw. This is gonna get a little tricky, maybe. All right. Oh, hey, I see a couple of screws loose down here too, huh? Where's my hole? Do you know, I probably should have made sure all these holes line up first before I even put the ESC on. Yeah, this one doesn't line up right. Okay. Let's see what we do. That might be a waste of thermal paste. Could have done without that. Actually, maybe, let me see. I might just be able to tighten this one down and call it a day. Because the thermal paste is doing a pretty good job of keeping it steady, and just that one screw, I mean, what to do? I guess I should take it off, clean it off, drill a new hole, huh? Jeez. Okay. Should have made sure that it lined up for measure twice, cut once, right? So much for that. Holds dope. All right. Yeah, that thermal paste does the trick. Look at that. Very nice. Okay. What did I do wrong? Where's my template? We said it was... This would be better if I had actual holes in the paper. Oh yeah, I fucked that up. It should come back over here. So this back screw is in a good spot. This one in the front is not. Let me punch it and see what we get. I hate putting holes in my plate, screwing up, but oh well. Yeah, I missed by a lot. It's disappointing. What did I do with my drill bit? I gotta stop setting stuff down. This is a joke. Whoa. Let's go with this. Yeah, I wasn't even close, man. Oh, I see what happened. My punch spot was actually over here, but my bit walked off of the punch spot. Nice. And my countersink. Jeez. What a mess. All right, that's better. Now I guess I have to clean up this CPU paste. It's a little bit of a waste. This stuff's kind of expensive for that little teeny tube. You don't get very much for your money, but I would guess that you don't need to use very much of it. I used to be a computer guy. All right. I haven't built a PC in a very long time. Let me put a little bit on these. Come on, stick. There you go. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Hopefully it works. We know we need 1.5. All right, take two. All right, now that top hole is lined up. Let's see about the bottom. Yes. So I actually measured it right the first time, but I missed the drill bit walking off of the spot. Okay. Did I strip the bit or the screw? Probably the screw head. Oh well, we'll have to cut that one out later. All right. Sensor wire, you could stay out of our way. And the power leads we won't need for now either. I'll just put these under this strap. How about that? And we just need to know which one's A, B, and C, right? This one's A. All right. So, let me get my soldering iron back on. Wire snips. Let's see, how do I cut? We want to cut these so that they stay out of the way of the screen. We do want to be able to use the screen. Let's try that. I'll weave them behind the power wires, and that way, hopefully they stay kind of back there. Yeah. Need some better wire snips or to sharpen these or something. They're not cutting it. Literally and figuratively. We have solder. ESC is in there. I like that. I've never even seen such a thing. Putting an ESC directly onto the chassis plate. Pretty crazy. See what happens. All right. Let's tin this wire and we'll put it on our motor. Like I said, I like to use a good deal of solder, get it into the wire. It makes just the connection sturdier. And then I need to take a plier because these wires get hot. And that's there. And we'll do a dab of solder, just to be sure. It gives a little bit of flux in there too to keep things nice and clean. Going anywhere. This will be B. We'll run this one the same. A little bit that way. Yeah. Oh, these cutters suck. Let me find another set. There's got to be a better way. Or not. Yeah, let's try these. Yeah, that's better. mangled those. Give those a little twist, tin them up, tin it up, and solder it on. What was that, about 1.5 inches of solder? Like I said, put a lot of heat in it, let it wick down into the wire. And then we'll use our pliers to hold it steady for us. And I'll put a dab of solder. Nice, just some little wet solder to keep things flowing. See, that's not going anywhere. That's really not going anywhere. Oh my goodness. I just put C on B. Where were you guys? All right. Well. Oh, that moved. You saw it. Oh. That's what I get. Screwing up. I am having struggle. Why? All right. Really gonna work this time? No. All right. Let's try this one more time. Oh my goodness. Maybe the wire's got a little bit of oil on it or something, so and these pliers don't have teeth, so it just kind of slips around there. All right, that's better. All right. Now, actually do B. Stupid. How far do we come? It's right there. All right. Twist. Give it a little tin. Solder it on. Yeah. All right. That looks neater. And no little chunks of wire between the terminals. Everything looks good. I guess we should see if it works. Well, they say, by the way, Oxide, Elceram say, to not connect your sensor wire while you are doing your calibration. I think that there's a concern that it might kind of run away. I'll leave this up in the air, and it shouldn't make too much difference. See what happens if we plug it in. No fires? No fires. Let me get my radio. Let's see if I can clean up my screen a little bit so we can see. All right. So I'm on my truggy 2.2. I want to go in here and I'm going to set my throttle, brake all the way back to defaults 100. Steering will leave the same. Do we have any other sub trim on throttle? Nope. How about throttle expo? No, nothing like that. Good. Okay. All right, let's turn her on, see what happens. Can you guys see that? Let's go. Nice splash screen. Vent. It doesn't pick up the receiver. Oh, I guess it would help if I plugged in the speed controller. Well, smart guy. Which way? Negative goes down. Which one's negative? The one with the mark. All right. Yeah, it helps when you actually like plug stuff in. Sorry. Look at that. I woke up. It does say that the sensor is not on. Let me disconnect my fan so it's a little quieter. Receiver is low. Oh, my radio is programmed for a battery round. How do I change that? RX set. RX battery monitor. Oh yeah, RX set. So RX set. RX battery monitor. And then we'll say our low voltage is. This doesn't really matter because it's always going to read whatever the ESC is putting out, which is probably 6 point something. Actually, we can go in and change that. So to change settings on this controller, you press and hold these two buttons for 2 seconds, and that gets you into like the main config screen. And then you're going to go through and look for Beck here, so I can get my radio to shut up. On this guy, this is really cool. Let me put my fan back on, and you can listen to the fan speed change while I change the Beck voltage. Check this out. I'll put my mic down here. I'm going to connect the fan again so we can actually hear. All right, radio, what are you complaining about? RX set, RX battery monitor. Just don't even talk about it. Alarm voltage. Yeah, fine. You're never going to see it anyway. It's always going to pump out the same back voltage. I don't know why I have that even turned on. Okay, so calibrate radio. So the next setting screen from the Beck configuration is RX calibration. Let me show you how to get to that so this is your main screen. Hold these two buttons down 2 seconds, takes you in the menu, and if you go back, you can see a profile page, which we won't mess with, and then this RX calibration. And what we do is hold this settings button, and it'll say calibrate. So RX calibration, move throttle to limits, center throttle, and press OK. So I'm going to go, right now I'm centered. I'm going to go full bore and full brake and press OK. And that's it. And if you actually press the trigger, you can see that it rolls forward and back on the screen. So how much press you see. Not cool. Okay. Let's go out of settings. Do we have steering? Do we have throttle? No. Oh, there's no sensor wire. Right. So now that we've done the calibration, we can plug in our sensor wire. And I'll run this back the same route as the motor wires. And let me grab my little pliers so that I can press this in. I'll have to use my big sausage fingers. Go there. And then just use the edge of the plier to sort of press those back in. Okay, so now we turn her on. And we have steering and no. Whoa. Wowee. That was crazy. Okay, so it's reversed. And we're going to have to figure that out. That's why they tell you to leave the sensor wire disconnected. How about that? All right, let's steer throttle reverse. We'll change that to normal. Wowee, that was scary. Now forward goes forward. But I should also recalibrate it again. So let's go back to our settings. Calibrate. So move throttle to limits. Here's full gas. Here's full brake. Okay. Now. Yeah. It shows my full brake going that way and my throttle going that way. Good. Goodness. All right. That was scary. Other settings that I have done on my buggy, I won't do straight away here because I don't quite know if how this thing's going to drive. I'll let it run once stock and then go back and change some stuff. But the one thing I did change was the back voltage. I put that up to 7.8. There's an argument here for all kind of things. Your back voltage on this speed controller can go from 6.0 to 8.4, I believe. I can't remember the bottom, but the top is definitely, actually, you know what, here, let's just do this and we can find out. So if I walk it back down all the way, I can go to 6 flat. And if I take it up all the way, I can go to 8.4 volts. And that can be done in 0.05 of a volt increments. I set mine on the buggy at 7.85. For me, that kind of seemed like a good spot for, oops, I didn't mean to turn it off. It seemed like a good spot. Not too much, power on the servo and things like that. on our nitro cars, they're all 8.4 volts, right? There's no adjusting it. It's just whatever comes out of your hump pack, right? And if you've got a life pack or an LAHV, you know, you're putting out 8.4 volts. So, you know, a lot of people, especially who run nitro as well as electric, will set the Beck voltage up to be the full 8.4 because that's what they run on nitro. So yeah, I'll leave that there. I'll leave the drive frequency, all that stuff the same for now. Like I said, I'll give it a run and then adjust it. Brakes, I will change the max. I have my buggy turned down to about 90. No drag brake. PWM on the brakes is 2K, and no parking brake. Reverse is off. Boost timing, I don't want any boost. I don't run boost. Turbo, we can just walk this down to nothing. I typically don't run any turbo unless I've got a really long straight. Actually, you know what? I want to make that down instant. I always want my turbo to drop off like immediately. Yeah, instant. There it is. Okay. So my radio shuts up and we'll get a little bit of flick. Next screen is a Hall angle modification. So this is software advancement of hardware. Kind of sounds interesting, right? I've actually not played with the Hall angle adjustment or this next setting, which is drift. I'll have to play with them one day and see what we can do with those things. Yeah. For drift, this is a setting that you would use if you were putting it in a drift car, I believe. What it does is set a maximum RPM and then a drop. So whenever you come up to that RPM limit, it'll drop it by whatever you configure it to say. So right here, it's the max RPM is off, so it's not doing anything, but the drop is 5K. So say you set your max RPM to like 35K, what would happen is you'd go up to your max RPM, then the ESC would back it off 5K, and then it would bring it back up to 35, back it off 5K, and bring it up to 35. So you kind of stay like within, you know, whatever, you know, K RPMs that you want to be close to the limit, right? So I guess for drift cars, right, you probably want to, you know, be full pin all the time and just let the speed controller kind of manage it for you. Yep. Anyway, I have another video on the channel where we go through all the settings and things like that here. What else did I change on the other guy? If you hold this button down for these two buttons down for 4 seconds, they take you into a different configuration menu. 2 seconds is like, you know, your drive settings and how your car behaves and stuff like that. And then the 4-second menu is really underneath, right? The configuration of the car, the ESC underneath of the motor and that kind of stuff. So, you know, you can set your motor poles and your battery type, motor direction, and so on. Dead band for your radio. You can change the things that show up on the main screen. There's graph customization, thermometers calibration, ammeter calibration. These things all you can do, you know, if you need to. There's credits for the software and hardware, and there's a reset, and you can also take snapshots. Yeah. All right. Well, that's this guy done. I'm going to go over and button these things up a little bit. I'll go over, get a fan, put that down, give it a run on the track, and see how it goes. I'm pretty excited. This ESC is fantastic in my buggy. I think it's going to be good in this one too. We'll see.